we had Thursday Night Football. Great game. I don't think either of us could have been much happier with what we got. We really enjoyed it. I mean, we talked about it for 35 minutes if you checked out the video yesterday. So that was great. Today, though, we got to actually talk about like the Sunday games, specifically the one in the 4 o'clock window, the big boy grouping here of the week. I'm just excited to get like some weekly predictions that are actually like a big group of them all at once.
hmm
As opposed to just talking about one game, even though it's fun to talk about one game, it's even more fun to look at the league as a whole because then it's all sorts of a mess, and I'm sure our opinions will be very different in the next 2 days, basically, which is always fun, and that's the reason we watch the NFL. So, what are you thinking going into this first week?
I mean, I'm just excited to finally have up-to-date information when we're picking these games, because all the way back when we talked about individual teams, we would run through their schedule, and then towards the end, it's like, oh yeah, I think that this opponent that I gave, like, I don't know, Detroit the edge over, think they're going to beat them now. Just going through all of it. Uh, and then when we predicted every game in the league, it's still not even as up to date as this is now. So I'm very excited to do this and maintain this throughout the season. And keep track of this and see which one of us knows more ball than the other. By the time this comes to an end.
Yeah, I'll always cherish our, the rest of my life. I'll cherish our conversations about the Green Bay Packers all of this offseason. Just oh, good God.
All for naught. All for
Um,
naught.
so, anyways, besides that, uh, we've decided that since we, the reason we watch the NFL is because anybody can win any given Sunday. So, a good starting point for that is, well, you can't just pick the favorite in every single game. So, we decided to make a rule. Each week, we're going to have to pick three, like, perceived underdogs from our own perspectives. We're not looking at betting totals, but we have to pick at least three games that we would say would probably go against our own spread. And I have to say I had a tough time doing it this week because I basically did just want to pick like all the teams that I would think would be favored by Vegas. Um,
hmm
but I did come up with three in the end, and it'll be interesting. And then also we have like one game that we think if we think there's one game that's going to be a close game, we got to have one lock of the week as well. So we figured those were two fun things to throw in here. So that's what we got. Any other notes before we get into the actual games themselves, Jake?
Oh, well, supposed to have three upsets. I include four in mine. So just going above and beyond.
Oh boy. See, I almost did the fourth, but I I just don't feel right about it. I can't feel right about it. Um. Okay, you ready to start then?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Let's open it up. Jacksonville at Houston. Oh boy, I know this is the hot matchup everybody's talking about. They're saying this is game of the year potential right here. We got the worst team in professional football last season going up against the worst team in professional football this season. I don't know. I couldn't get more attractive than seeing how quickly Tyrod Taylor can get thrown out of a game. So I mean, I don't know if we should just say right away who we're picking, but I don't know if this is a game that's going to gain a lot of traction. Houston's the home team. Neither of these teams are great, so this actually probably is going to be a close game in the end. But just from where the rosters are sitting at this point in time, I like the Jags a little bit more, and I'm going to take the Jags in this game this week. But I really see a universe where this can be a very close game. I don't think it's a blowout, even though I'm already willing to admit that I think Houston's probably the worst team in the league this year.
Oh, I completely agree that Houston is going to be the worst team in football this season. Uh, but Jacksonville's roster, I mean, through the entire draft, and you and I both agree on this, didn't really get much better besides drafting Trevor Lawrence to be QB. Other than that, I mean, it didn't get substantially better. I think Urban Meyer's bogging it down a little bit. Still got to get that chemistry going. Trevor Lawrence didn't maximize the amount of time he could have had at quarterback because they were putting Gardner Minshew out there in practice, taking reps away from him, and in preseason games. The Houston Texans, though, that roster is. I mean, it's the same thing as the Jags. It's just older. The rosters are, I mean, coaching. I'm gonna give Urban Meyer the edge on that. David Culley, I mean, he's got his band of misfits in there in Houston. With that being said, I got the Texans taking this one.
I was wondering if you were going to come back to it. No, I remember you. I remember you saying that in your actual season predictions way in advance. And
I really do think that the Texans can take this one though.
oh, I do.
Just and it's going to be something that everyone, like analysts and talking heads, are going to be like, Trevor Lawrence isn't the guy we thought he was, losing to the Texans. Like, no, the expectations for the guy are through the roof, and he hasn't seen that much action. I mean, Urban Meyer played him a ton in the preseason, but he was going up against like second and third string defenses the longer he was out there. Like, he would start against good defenses, probably play a drive against that, then after that it would get worse. I mean, he's probably going up against what some teams would consider a second string defense in Houston. I've seen games from Tyrod Taylor, and I know what I'm going to get from him. I haven't seen games from Trevor Lawrence in the NFL. I don't know what I'm going to get from him. Uh, and also, I mean, Brandon Cooks, I think, is a more reliable target than any of the guys on Jacksonville because none of them are healthy. DJ Chark is not healthy. He's not fully healthy. Marvin Jones is not fully healthy. I mean, Visca's good, but I wouldn't say he's as reliable as Brandon Cooks.
Man, you're not gonna put all your money on Jamal Agnew yet. That's really disappointing. No, I know. I agree with you. I don't think this game is out of reach at all for the Texans. I think we're gonna see a lot more matchups this season where the Texans play in them, and they are gonna be completely out of reach. But I do think that we're not gonna see a team that loses every game this season, especially because we just added a game, which means we have another chance for teams to win a game that they shouldn't. I think it's going to be really hard for any team in the league to not win one this year. So giving them this one, which is a matchup that I feel is not crazy out of the realm of possibilities, is fine with me. I do want to push back on your point that say like we didn't know what to think of their draft. You're right. We didn't know what to think of their draft at the time because we had no one to compare it to because they were the first draft we look at.
Yes, it's not as bad as other drafts.
No, I'm not even saying that. No, I'm saying that I like it. I'm saying it's probably in like the top half of drafts. At least from my perspective, on guys I liked or didn't like this year. It's probably a top half draft in the league since we went through and looked at everybody's classes. But the thing is that honestly, they've picked like my favorite guys the past few years, and they haven't turned out very well. So it still really is going to be a lot up to this coaching staff. So we'll have to see how much weight is on Urban Meyer's shoulders. And I'll pick, like I said, I'm picking Jacksonville, but it's really nothing that I'm feeling crazy confident about. Honestly, I feel like this one could easily swing either way.
Yeah, it's going to be. I mean, I don't want to say a fun one to watch. It's going to be an ugly win for whoever wins it.
Yeah, no, probably you're probably right. Unless the Texans just hand the ball off every play, but even that's probably considered ugly. So the next game on the slate, we got the LA Chargers heading to the Washington football team. I have to say, I really almost did it, and I'm probably almost going to do it every week because the Chargers are going to have a chance in every game they play this week. Or not this week, every game they play every week. Because that Justin Herbert guy is quickly going to ascend into the tier of quarterbacks of Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, whoever, where it doesn't matter how the team plays around him. It's just that in the last minute of the game, chances are, at the very worst for the Chargers, it'll be a one-score game, and they'll have a chance to win it. So with that being said, it's going to be hard to like ever say outright this Chargers team is out of it, because I truly believe that Justin Herbert can be that good based off what we saw last year. But I think Washington is the best team in the NFC East, and also just like a slight one tier above the Chargers. Just like one tier above them in terms of how balanced their roster is as a whole. And I think they got the edge here, especially because they're at home. So I'm picking Washington in this one.
All offseason, I've been going to war for the Chargers. Brandon Staley, my favorite coaching hire of the offseason. Justin Herbert, one of my favorite young QBs. I love the players that they got on that defense, love the weapons that they have on offense, love what they've done to give him an offensive line. But I think it's going to take some time for them to mesh and to really get grooving. And once they do get grooving, I think that they can go to the playoffs. But week one against the Washington team that has retained everyone and got better at the QB position, and not just like got better by bringing in a rookie, got better by bringing in a old veteran in Ryan Fitzpatrick who has played in what the Washington has done with that offense, just trying to adapt it to like Ryan Fitzpatrick. Yeah, you like quick reads and throwing the ball? Okay, yeah, sure. That's what we have the weapons for you to do that. So I'm gonna give Washington the win here, uh, off of that defense and just the chemistry that that team has, and not having to like go through growing pains that the Chargers will these first couple weeks of the season.
It's funny, just having us both go with Washington, because the one concern that I posed for the Chargers in terms of what I think one of their weak spots could be this season is run defense. And honestly, I don't see that showing in this game at all, and yet we both still pick the Washington football team, even though we don't think that the Chargers really have like what I was considering maybe their kryptonite if they have a bad season. So yeah, that's I mean that's just interesting to go there from that point. Next game, early window game for a West Coast team. I don't know how they feel about this. Luckily, it's not a college game, so it's not at noon, but it's still at 1 p.m. So not great playing at 10 a.m. realistically for these West Coast teams. Seattle heads to Indianapolis. However, Indy. Ooh boy, this is kind of been some tough sledding here. It looks like we're definitely leaning towards Carson Wentz playing. Like all signs point ahead, right? Now that's very good. Compared to where we thought it could have been a few weeks ago, even maybe a little longer. When he got injured, and we didn't know where it was going to be. But I mean, he still missed some time here, and I feel like that's going to be a big thing. Him getting back, I don't know how how quickly he's going to be able to be ready for the game. However, and we don't like this early stretch for the Colts. We really didn't like it when Carson Wentz got injured. But the fact that he's back really helps him. I think this game's going to be a lot closer than I thought it was going to be a few weeks ago when I heard about the Carson Wentz injury. I'm feeling pretty confident that Frank Reich can get some solid play, some at least solid play out of Carson Wentz. I don't think he's going to look awful like he did in the past year, if not more, when he actually got on the field. But I'm still picking Seattle because I do feel like there's just enough there. Even though Seattle's the road team, there's just enough, basically what you said, growing pains for this Indianapolis team that they're not going to be able to beat a division champion from last season.
Yeah, didn't like the Colts this early stretch without Carson Wentz. Didn't like the Colts this early stretch with Carson Wentz hurt. I didn't even like the Colts this early stretch with healthy Carson Wentz. And I mean, if I'm going to bag on the Jags not giving Trevor Lawrence that time in the preseason and in camp to go through the playbook, build chemistry with these guys, I can't be hypocritical. I have to do the same thing with Carson Wentz too, even though no, because Ryan Fitzpatrick did have an full off season to build chemistry with these guys. Carson Wentz didn't. He was hurt. He wasn't on the practice field. These guys didn't play in the preseason at all, I believe, to get anything gelling with these guys. He's going to be going out there, and it's going to be a dress rehearsal for like the main show for him. So it's going to be these first couple stretch games for the Colts are going to be rough. Just Carson Wentz learning this. I mean, Frank Reich. I love Frank Reich. I think he's going to do everything that he can as a play caller to help that team succeed. But when it comes to execution, it's going to take Carson Wentz a couple weeks to get that down and to really succeed at it, look good in it. But Frank Reich isn't going to make him look bad with any of his play calls. He's going to capitalize on everything that Carson Wentz does well. He's not going to put him in a situation for failure. It's just their opponents that they go up against. It's a situation for failure. These really tough teams that they play at the front half of their schedule. So I'm going with Seattle.
I'll say, though, in the next few weeks, probably because we're favoring those teams, and we talked about already having to pick upsets in games, I'm probably not going to be favoring the Colts in those games. So I may eventually have to swing one their way, at least in terms of my picks being that they can actually pull off an upset. And even though we're 3 games in so far, I can't say that any of these games feel like games that are going to be complete blowouts. And even the next game doesn't feel like it's going to be a complete blowout. Maybe game 5 when we get to it, but game 4 doesn't. Next game up, I got New York Jets at Carolina Panthers. This is the fun one because Sam Darnold is playing against his old team in the first game back, just playing again. And he gets to go up against the Jets immediately. We really like what the Panthers have done this offseason, I'd say. We feel like they're really headed in the right direction. It's just that we don't feel like they actually have enough talent on their team to really get past like a middle-of-the-road team yet this year.
Yeah.
And I'll say, I had a very tough time figuring out how exactly I was going to go through this week. But I'm going to go with the New York Jets in this game because I do think that after the offseason where we just beat up on them the entire time, we realized kind of through training camp and just the preseason, plus, just the fact that I like the coach in general, at least how he coaches, his style, and then the other guys he's brought along onto the coaching staff with him, I think are going to be pretty key in their success. Zach Wilson looks like he's going to be competent immediately when he steps on the field, which is nice because we weren't sure about that. We thought maybe we're going to see some chuck-up crazy interceptions. We still could potentially see that. But, they're going to be a mid to low level team in the NFL as opposed to just a very bad, awful team in the NFL, which is where I kind of felt we were going to put them this offseason. And I feel like that puts them right in that range of where Carolina is as well. And I don't think that this game is out of reach by any means for them. If Carolina comes in and absolutely smokes them, I'll be eating my words, obviously, but I don't think that's going to happen. And I think this is one of the ones that I considered close enough that I actually decided to go with the team that I'd consider the underdog this week in the Jets.
All right. Well, unlike you, I tried in all my heart to go against Sam Darnold here, but it's too perfect for him to beat up on the Jets week 1. Just get all that frustration out. So right off the bat, I'm going to say I'm going with the Panthers here. I do like what the Jets have done, though. At the start of this offseason, really looking at them, we both disliked the Zach Wilson pick a lot. He's shown out in the preseason, though. I don't think I'm going to be eating my words, though. I still don't like him a lot. He has shown flashes, and flashes are good, but Drew Lock has also shown flashes.
Really?
Yes. His rookie season, he showed a lot of flash, but that team is Zach Wilson's. I'm expecting him in like the first half of the season, maybe this whole first season for him, to just have some of these chuck up crazy interceptions that he had when he was at BYU. Sam Darnold, he's going to be a calculated decision maker. Doesn't have a good offensive line, though. That's the one thing I will say. But if there's any guy that knows how to play behind a terrible offensive line, it would be Sam Darnold. And every other part of that offense is good. It's just the offensive line is bad. And Joe Brady isn't no dummy. He's going to draw plays that can probably get Sam Darnold away from that offensive line. Bootleg play action, maybe. Work it over the middle. Loves Robbie Anderson. Got Robbie Anderson back. I just can't go against this Carolina team because they just seem so fun. And I love the defense, too. Didn't even talk about the defense, but so young and fresh. Like Matt Rule as a head coach, I'm not going to go against him this first week of the season. And also the Jets have just been rocked this offseason with injuries, too. So that might hurt them the first half, especially when their number one pass rusher is Shaq Lawson, and he just came in a week ago. So
I don't disagree with you. I just had to find a game. I picked the game that I thought this is the closest, and I'm going with the Jets. Although, wait, there was one thing in there that you said that was a little bit questionable to me. I don't know. I'll say last season it was really fun to watch the Panthers because it felt like no matter who they were playing, somehow they were going to have a close game. Whether they were playing Kansas City, they were going to be right there, or whether they were playing, Jacksonville, they were going to be right there. It was just great. It was great to watch Carolina last season. So maybe Carolina can actually have the upper hand of this week. Moving to the next game, Minnesota at Cincinnati. Now, I know you do not like Minnesota. Minnesota's really a middle-of-the-road team for me now. I really didn't like what they showed in the preseason, just to be completely honest. But they were one of the few teams that literally went like as deep into their rotation as they could in the preseason. Like third stringers were starting games. You weren't even having the second stringers out there to start. So I don't know how much to read into that. I lowered them a little just because I felt, okay, well, I guess I kind of want to see more out of them, even if they're just gonna like throw games basically at the start of the preseason. I want to see something from the players. But yeah, no, this is Minnesota at Cincinnati, and I think Cincinnati's a bottom 3 team in the league. And unlike the Jacksonville Houston matchup, where I feel like they're like one tier apart, I feel like these teams are a few tiers, if not maybe 3 tiers apart from each other. So I'm gonna have Minnesota probably by at least 8 points in this matchup. Like I think it's probably going to be more than a 1-score game, and I'm assuming based off your face right now that and how much you've hated on Minnesota this offseason and the fact that, Cincinnati's going to be terrible this season, you're just going to screw with me by saying that Cincinnati's going to win this game. I don't know if you believe it, but you're about to say it.
I'm mainly smiling because I just like that you admitted that Minnesota's a middle-of-the-road team. Very mediocre from what I saw of them. I mean, the offensive talent's there, just everything around that team. I don't really like how the front office operated. They made a tackle who I would say top 16 tackle in the league, in the top 5 highest paid. I don't like that decision. I mean, can I just go to Minnesota and get paid? I hate Minnesota, so I'm going with Cincinnati. Joe Burrow's going to show that knee injury was nothing to him, that Joe Burrow, just like Dan Campbell, eats knees for breakfast, and he's gonna bounce back from that. With that knee injury, Joe Burrow is gonna prove everyone wrong this offseason. I don't know who. I just said he's gonna prove people wrong. But I don't think anyone's saying that he's gonna be bad because of it. He's gonna prove that offensive line wrong. I think Zach Taylor comes into his own as a head coach for at least one game this season. So why not make it the first game? Jamar Chase, he cleans up those drop problems week 1.
Yeah, so you have 4 upsets this week, and one of them is literally just a meme so that you can say Minnesota's bad.
Well, I have the order of my games different than you do, so when I was going through and picking up, I was like, okay, that was my 3rd upset when I went down in order of them. And then it was like one more. I'm like, I'm not going to go back and change it. I wrote it in pen. What am I going to do? Scratch it out? No. I put it in pen for a reason. It's going to stay there.
Fair enough. I don't know if I ever gave you the vibe that I was saying Minnesota was a top tier team, because no. I don't think I ever was saying that. I was just saying this path for like them being a middle of the road team. No, they're really because in the power rankings, you were giving
me the impression that they were upper middle during the offseason. You were giving me the impression of that.
Yeah, but in the power rankings, they're 15 for me. Like a few weeks ago, even if like you had them at their high point of a few weeks ago, that may have bumped them up to 13, maybe, if it was like I was feeling good about them on a day. But they're still not in that top tier. And even when I picked them in the offseason with how awkward, just in case anybody hasn't seen it, when I picked them in the offseason for how awkwardly my playoffs played out, and they somehow managed to get to the Super Bowl, just to get waxed by Cleveland. Yeah, it's like, no, I thought, just make that very clear. Minnesota's not like a top tier team.
Yeah, and the last thing I got to say about Minnesota is scrolling through Instagram, saw that Kirk Cousins posted a picture of him watching the Thursday night game with a helmet on. I don't need someone that's going to be that safe and conservative being the quarterback for my football team, okay? I need someone that's going to take risks. If you're sitting at home and you're lazy boy watching Thursday Night Football with a helmet on, I don't need that. I don't need that at all.
Are you gonna give any context to that for anybody who didn't see it, or just leave it there?
No, he was wearing a helmet when he was watching Thursday Night Football.
Okay. Just so you know, you probably should have more context for that before
No, I'm creating my own narrative.
Before you take Jake's advice here.
I'm creating my own narrative.
Fine. I'm not going to give him the context. I'm just going to go tell him to
Don't
find
look
it.
at Kirk Cousins' Instagram.
Okay. Now it's our favorite team in the league in this following game. We've got the Arizona Cardinals heading to the Tennessee Titans. Yeah, so this one's one of the few teams in the league that we have a strong opinion on. It's teamly. It's a team beat up on the Arizona Cardinals. So neither of us have huge hopes for this Arizona Cardinals team this season. They're in the toughest division in football. It's not going to be easy no matter what they do. So I mean, I'm not expecting a ton from the Cardinals in this week one matchup, as we think they're going up against one of the few teams in the NFL that really seems like even before the season, I'm like, if I had to guarantee that a team was going to win a division, it may be the Tennessee Titans. And it's definitely not going to be a team from the NFC West that I'm picking. So just getting that matchup, them having to travel to Tennessee, so they're getting I don't think this game falls in the 4:00 window yet, so they're kind of moving east for an earlier game slightly. That's not going to be amazing. Tennessee, actually Nashville may be in the central time zone, so it may not be terrible for Arizona, but even still, that's going to be like an 11 a.m. local time for Arizona kickoff. That's not great. And just Tennessee is a lot better coached, and that's like the biggest thing here, because they have both of these teams have actually kind of similarly a lot of guys that are just like superstar names, top heavy rosters, and I don't think we've really mentioned
what I was gonna say.
mentioned that about Arizona before, but really similar in that sense. But coaching goes all the way to Tennessee's side, in my opinion, so I'm going Tennessee here.
Yeah, both teams uber talented. I mean, the talent level on both of these teams might be equal. It might even be more in Arizona's favor. It's just the amount of talent that are on these teams. But the coaching disparity, I mean, you could put Arizona against any team in the league, really. And the coaching disparity with Cliff Kingsbury decision making, it's like, so his decision making is worse than Anthony Lynn's last season. And I keep using Anthony Lynn as like my go-to guy for this, but it just seems like everyone resonated and like realized like, oh yeah, what Anthony Lynn did last season was bad coaching. Cliff Kingsbury does that to a maximum. He does not get the most out of the talent on his team, and he might have. I mean, Kyler Murray is closer to Michael Vick than Lamar Jackson is, really, with his arm talent and his ability to run. And yes. Cliff Kingsbury is like just removing Kyler Murray from any conversation of being in an elite tier of quarterback because of like the offense. It is ridiculous. So I'm going with Tennessee here. Obviously, the talent on Tennessee is an icing on a cake. I mean, if we had to describe it, like the talent comes from a few guys, but those few guys are going to give them the win. If none of those guys get injured, Tennessee's going to go on a run throughout the playoffs. So I'm going to pick Tennessee in a majority of their games this year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to as well, and I don't disagree with anything you said. I love making the point that Kyler Murray is closer to Michael Vick than Lamar Jackson, because I think that's probably a thing that a lot of people have a hard time thinking about, but I mean, it's the truth. Arm strength, like acceleration, it really probably comes down mostly to the arm strength thing. Mm-hmm. But the acceleration Kyler Murray has is unlike anybody before. It doesn't matter, compare it to Mike Vick or Lamar Jackson. That explosion he has when he just decides to take off through a gap in the line of scrimmage is absolutely insane. It's like a first step ability that's just absolutely wild. So I guess we're moving on to the next one now. We got San Francisco at Detroit. San Fran.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to spend much time dwelling on this game. I can't even say I like Detroit. Dan Campbell has really unimpressed me with his coaching this preseason. and we think San Fran's going to be back on top in the NFL this year. So I'm going with San Fran as well.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a ton to add. You know, stability. It's as simple as that. And Detroit was not a roster we were looking at before this season, even if they were stable, is going to be competitive. So the fact that they're unstable just makes it even worse. They're the home team, though. Maybe that gives them something.
Almost left for preseason.
It's cheating. Pittsburgh at Buffalo. So we had this matchup last season. We've actually had it the past 2 seasons. This is the 3rd season in a row we're seeing this matchup because these teams keep wanting to place in the same spot in their divisions to be able to match up with each other again each year. I have a feeling that one will change this year because we're not going to have the AFC North next year in our schedule, and I am not seeing a universe where the Bills somehow finish below the second place spot in the AFC East, and also a world where the Patriots finish above the 3rd place spot in the AFC North. So, with that being said, I don't think we'll see this matchup again next year.
The Patriots?
I'm sorry, I meant the Steelers. Yeah. I was thinking about the AFC East still. Yeah, I don't see a way where the Steelers do better than the 3rd spot in the AFC North. But we're talking about this game this year, so I shouldn't be looking ahead to next year quite yet. We're still going to come back down to this offense at the end of last year really not being impressive at all. They got out to 11-0. Everybody knew. It wasn't even a question. Everybody knew before they even lost a game. This team has gotten so lucky that they got this far. And obviously they started to get burned at the end of the season, and they were bounced from the playoffs immediately. They changed a few things this offseason. Probably going to make their run game better, but we're still just by far like way too many questions about the passing game. And as for the Bills side, I still love our offense. I don't think there's nearly any defense in the NFL that could stop our offense. And if Pittsburgh's offense isn't clicking, it's going to be hard for the defense of Pittsburgh, even though it's really talented, to I mean, the Steelers' offense would have to click as much as the Bills' offense did to like not have the morale lost on the defensive side of the ball. And I feel like the Bills will probably be able to pull away in this one fairly early. It's just that probably by the end of the game, play a little more lax defense. Just let them get what they want. They love throwing underneath already. And later in the game, we'll just straight up give it to them if we're up by enough. And the final score may not look that bad, but I feel like this game will not be too much of a concern for the Buffalo Bills, and I'm picking them in that game.
Yeah. The main thing for Pittsburgh this offseason was, well, we didn't have a run game last year, so we got to make sure we have a run game this year. Bad thing with that is when you play against the Bills, the run game is eliminated just because the offense is going to score so many points, and I mean, I'm not a big fan of Pittsburgh's defense either. I love that they retained TJ Watt, and he's going to be playing in this game because I'm going to be going to that game, and I want to see the best talent on the field. It's bad for my team, but, I mean, it's nice to see TJ Watt playing. TJ Watt, Melvin Ingram, Cam Hayward, their front seven-ish. Is it Devin Bush too? Front seven's okay. That secondary is not good though, and that's all that matters. Because Josh Allen can by himself as much. The offensive line doesn't even have to block for him. He can just run away and make a play on the run. The people or the secondary has to cover, and if they can't do that, the game's over. And if it comes down to both quarterbacks having to throw 50+ passes in this game, I trust Josh Allen's arm not to fall off by the time that happens. And the Steelers' whole offensive game plan this offseason was, we have to make it so Ben does not throw 50 passes a game. This is a game where he's going to have to keep you in the game. And I don't know if their reluctance to do that because of this plan that they have built this offseason is going to kick in. It's like, no, we can't have you do that. So, I don't know. I'm interested to see what Pittsburgh comes out with for their offense in that game. But I'm picking the Bills.
Yeah. No, I love that Pittsburgh defensive front. You can say they're just okay. They're amazing. The fact that you can have Cam Hayward, Melvin Ingram, T.J. Watt, all these guys. I mean, they have so much depth there too. It's great. It's absolutely great. And if the Bills want to allow this game to stay close, it's the fact all they have to do is try to go against the grain of what their system is, which is a pass heavy team, and start running the ball on first and second down, or first pass on second, and then run again on third down. That's all they have to do, and they'll keep the Steelers in the game. They still probably are going to win in the end, but that's how they'll keep the Steelers in the game. The thing is that defensive line can't get to the quarterback if they're throwing quick passes. The Bills will always put themselves, based off last season and the preseason again this year, even though it's only the preseason. We have one of the best offensive coordinators in the league when Mitch Trubisky's on the field. He's able to cook against his old team because our offensive coordinator is absolutely magnificent. And he's always going to put his players in good situations. I trust him to be able to run short passing concepts in this game. Really basically do what we did in the second half. Find Diggs, never too far down the field, but once he makes the catch, have these guys run for yardage after the fact, and get those short passes out quick, eliminate the pass rush, and we'll be fine. We'll move the ball up and down the field. They probably won't be able to stop it because, as you said, I don't think there's anybody besides Minkah Fitzpatrick in that secondary that I'm worried about. And yeah, I mean, I think that'll be the case. And if there's a way Pittsburgh stays in this game, it's because Buffalo hands the ball off too much.
Mm-hmm. And Buffalo revamped the D-line, bringing in some youth there. And the one thing when it comes to youth on defensive line and youth on offensive line, if you have to put the two against each other, I'm going to take the young guys on the defensive line to overpower the young guys.
Yeah.
And Ben's got a new center too, so that could really mess it up. I mean, even with his veteran center, balls were getting snapped over his head and into the end zone. So, what are we to expect?
Yeah, that's true. Now this is a game most people may not find really interesting. This is a game I won't be tuning into because it's in the same time slot as Pittsburgh at Buffalo, and got to focus all my attention on the Bills when they're playing.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, it's probably the game I'm like the second most interested in the 1 o'clock slot because it's probably the game where I feel like the two teams playing are the closest. Even comparing it to like the Jets at Carolina, I don't think that game's quite as close. I think Carolina is a little bit better of a team than this. I feel like Philadelphia at Atlanta, even though it's going to be two like really like not great teams by the end of the year, just to be completely honest, I feel like they've kind of got some similarities in terms of just how talented they are. That's really it. They're not that similar teams in how they're put together, but how talented they are, I do think they're pretty close. And just like a great gauge to come out and see like where these teams are actually at. I have no idea. I mean, this game could really flip either way, and this could really give me some big notes for one team or the other if either are able to pull away. But really how I expect this to go is that Atlanta will be able to put up just too many points for Philadelphia. Philadelphia isn't great on either side of the ball, and I think Atlanta actually may be great on offense while being completely atrocious on defense, which hurts them. But, it's enough. Yeah, hurts them. Oh, my gosh. The fact that I can say that. Oh, my gosh. I'm sorry. You may not even realize the pun that I made, but just terrible. Yeah, no. But Atlanta is going to put up a lot of points. I don't think Philadelphia is going to be able to keep up in the end, and actually maybe take Atlanta by like 10 points at the end of the game, if I'm being honest with what I completely expect. But I'm just really interested in this game to see if I'm completely wrong about either of these teams because I don't know. It just feels like it should be a close game all the way up to the end where maybe Atlanta can put a field goal on the board that makes it look not too close.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a close game too, throughout it. And like you said, Philadelphia is not good on either side of the ball. Atlanta is good on offense and terrible on defense. I think Philly this season for them, even they're going to start out bottom tier team for everyone. I think they can surprise themselves and like come out of the basement and be kind of where Atlanta was at the end of last season, where everyone's like, yeah, they got a good offense, but they're never going to win a game because that defense can't stop a runny nose. I think Philly, like, they're going to be in that sense too. Jalen Hurts is going to take the next step and prove, like, yeah, I'm the quarterback for this team. At least that's what I think. And now that he's got Devontae Smith, an actual wide receiver there, he's not throwing touchdown passes to Greg Ward. Uh, he, they have a chance to win games, and winning those games is going to be, I need to just score more points than the other team's offense. I need to do everything I can. And Jalen Hurts is a more athletic quarterback, so if the ball does need to go into his hands for him to make a play, it's not like Matt Ryan where I have to get this ball to someone for us to make a play. I can make the play myself for Jalen Hurts. So
You're right.
giving this game to Philly.
Okay. Okay. And I mean, I'm not hating your upset pick here. At least I'm assuming you're calling this an upset. Maybe you're not.
Yeah.
But but yeah, no, I'm not hating it. I mean, that's one of the reasons I'm so interested in this game. I really do just think it's going to teach us a lot as compared to a lot of these games where I feel like I kind of got a better idea. I really want to know where these basement teams are going to end up sitting in terms of the basement by the end of the year. Maybe Atlanta's a lot better than I think, and we'll be even more surprised by that. But what are you gonna say?
Well, I just noticed too. I mean, I didn't notice this when I did it, but the three like basement teams, I guess you would say, Houston, Philly, and Cincy. I have them winning all week one.
Yeah. No, I'm not. It's yeah, no, and you kind of did the opposite of what I did then. Just to tell you, you picked teams that it's like these teams are so bad. Like it's possible for like the teams they're playing against that are also bad to screw up enough where even though they're worse, they can pull it out. And even though our Thursday night matchup we just watched had two good teams in it, the Bucks really tried to screw up enough to hand the Cowboys the game, and it didn't happen. But I mean, these matchups between close bad teams, even though we think one is better than another, I can see that happening. On the other hand, I did the complete opposite when I picked my matchups. Even though I have teams that I consider better than other teams, I still wanted to pick good teams to upset because I feel like I'm more confident in these teams to be able to overcome playing better competition than themselves and not just have the football gods give them some luck on the day and actually have some things be done by their team to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's it. I picked Atlanta. If I didn't make that clear, you picked Philadelphia. All right. We jump into the 4:00 window now. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 games remaining for this episode. 4 in the 4:00 slot. First one, talking about Cleveland at Kansas City. And if you haven't noticed, I've only done one of my upsets so far, and none of my lock is not in yet either. So you'll see what I got in this window here. Cleveland at Kansas City. So I just had my power rankings came out. The top 2 teams in my power rankings were Cleveland and Kansas City. Cleveland number 2, Kansas City number 1. You could say that if you have Kansas City traveling to Cleveland, you could give this game to Cleveland even though they're lower in my power rankings because hey, you could say home field advantage swings it for them. But Cleveland is heading to Kansas City today. I like Kansas City. The problem is that I do need to pick a team that I like. And I like Cleveland a lot. I may like Kansas City a little more, but I like Cleveland enough to be able to pick Cleveland in this game. So I'm going to go with Cleveland winning this game at Kansas City. I think it'll be very hard. One of the things that may help them is the fact that it's still early season and the Chiefs just, Patrick Mahomes had a baby. So we're going to put a ton of onus on that and hope that that took up way too much of his time this offseason. He comes out, misses like 2 passes, and him just being inaccurate on like 2 passes is enough to leave the door just open enough for Cleveland to sneak away with a 1-point victory and a huge upset in week 1 to kind of shock the world, I would say. But yeah, love Cleveland, love Kansas City, and this really couldn't be a better matchup to see in week 1. It's just really dumb that it's 4:00 and not the Sunday night slot.
Hey, we need to see these new stadiums because the NFL promised them primetime games. You think that this game not taking place in Cleveland would be a disadvantage for Cleveland. I beg to differ. Because Cleveland's offense allows them to set their own pace for the game. Kansas City can go score fast, but Cleveland's defense is going to make that tough. Cleveland's offense is built, play action, run the ball downfield, chew time off the clock, and you know how you make sure that you could set your own pace? You win the coin toss to start the game, and the only way you can win it is if you're the one that gets to call it. So Cleveland's the away team, so they get to call the coin toss. So hopefully Baker doesn't mess that up if he's the one to call it. I picked as soon as we got to Cleveland for our prediction, or not for our prediction, for our team breakdown. I had them winning this week 1 game against Kansas City. I really think that they could shock the world. I mean, most of these games that I picked, I have these bad teams winning, but I don't think any of them would be like shocking the world. Like, no one would be that surprised if Cincinnati's going to be bad. No one would be that surprised if they beat Minnesota, though. It's like, yeah, Cincy's going to win a couple games. But if Cleveland beats Kansas City, it'd be like, oh, Mahomes is on watch now in the AFC because these other teams are smelling blood in the water after that Super Bowl loss. And I'm going with Cleveland, maybe just for a narrative of my own sake. But it would be so good to just watch the gates for the AFC open that wide, and there's like 5-6 teams trying to get in all at once.
I think the casual fan that just watches the games on Sunday every year and doesn't really pay much attention during the offseason to what's going on and how things are shaping up is going to see this game Sunday, no matter how it turns out, and be like, wow, Cleveland. Wasn't ready for that. But, hopefully we can say that we're following the NFL a little more closely, and hopefully Cleveland doesn't come out and lay an egg to make us look like idiots. Last season.
Well, we both picked them, so it would even out for our record-wise. So
It would. But hopefully they don't lay a complete egg. They showed up against Baltimore at the beginning of the year last year and just looked terrible. I feel like their coach being around for a year now is going to at least allow that not to happen. And they've had a whole offseason to prepare for the AFC champion Chiefs. Okay. Green Bay at New Orleans. Not at New Orleans, at Jacksonville. I've got strong narrative vibes here,
Okay.
New Orleans feeling bad for their city. I kind of gave Green Bay some... I've been hating on Green Bay this offseason. I can say that, not terribly, but, a little bit down on them. With Aaron Rodgers finally being confirmed to be on the team, since we talked about it all offseason, it helps them out a lot. I do like that, and I think most of the time I would pick Green Bay over New Orleans. Today I'm picking New Orleans over Green Bay because we've got these players playing with passion because they feel for the city, with everything that's been going on there. It sucks for them. If they can get this win for their fans against the NFC runner-up last season, that would be huge. I'm sure everybody would be super excited for the team to be able to do that. And, they've just got a new wrinkle in their offense as compared to last season, what they had. They're going to be able to come out in some looks that probably are not anything from last season that any opponents saw when they were playing against the Saints, because it was either Drew Brees or Taysom Hill taking starting snaps. And even with that being said, they're still a variable offense, even if they don't come out in anything different. They're very hard to defend. I don't know if they're going to be a great team this year, but I think not having a lot of tape on them and the fact that they may be playing with a little bit more because they're feeling for their city right now will be able to push them over the Green Bay Packers this week. That's my narrative.
I get chills still when I watch that Steve Gleason block play, and the fans erupt in the Superdome. It's like, ooh, I really like that because you know how much that means to the city. But that's like a once-in-a-lifetime play and a once-in-a-lifetime feeling. I don't think that's going to happen again, especially with it being in Jacksonville.
It's not the same at all. No.
No.
Please don't make me say that it's the same. It's
No,
not.
no.
It's not the same at all because I don't think there'll
It's
be
just
one
it's just
individual. I don't think there'll be one individual play in this game that's like, oh, you got to look back at it and say like that one play was like huge for everything. I just think it's kind of like a general feeling that gets them just a little bit more. It's not even close to the same thing as what they had in like 2005 or 2006 whenever the dome reopened.
hmm Yeah, that's all good and fun. But the Saints secondary is really, really, really bad. Um, they make this trade. Yeah, they got Bradley Roby now. Woo, is he going to be the guy? He's going to be the number one corner on Devontae Adams.
Well, when Chauncey Gardner-Johnson gets Devontae Adams thrown out of the game in the first quarter, it'll.
Well, that's the other thing. Their secondary is bad. Chauncey Gardner Johnson is bad.
Bad.
He,
Yeah.
uh, I mean, you know what? I didn't even think about that. He could just get Randall Cobb and Devontae Adams and Allen Lazard just all tossed in the first half, but because they try to punch him. But I just the talent on Green Bay is far more than the talent on New Orleans. I feel like New Orleans had to make too many tough decisions to be able to field their team, even though they're still doing some cap wizardry to like make this Bradley Roby trade happen. Uh, I'm gonna go with Green Bay. I mean, with all these upset picks that I have, that just feels like a safe pick for me in the end.
That's fair. I'm not. I
Like
can't disagree with it
I
too much because this is one of my upset picks of the week, so that means that I generally think the favoritism would go towards the Packers.
hmm I just I know what I'm getting in Green Bay. I have no the Saints are probably the biggest question mark team out of all these teams playing this week because of the change from Drew Brees. Just the consistency every year with Drew Brees to now Jameis Winston
I like that
is
rather. I'm sorry. I just like that
no, no.
that you said all these teams playing this week as opposed to every team in the league.
Well, yeah, every team in the league. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah, it's definitely a huge question mark. I mean, there's huge question marks for other teams, but I don't know how much bigger it can get than what the Saints got going, especially with
Mhm.
the saying variability again about the Saints of Jameis Winston specifically, and then what could come else with it if ever they were to turn to Taysom Hill, which I don't think they're going to
Yeah.
do. I think once they picked, they were planning to roll with that decision the whole season, but they'll be a very interesting team to watch for a very different reason than it's been basically the entire time we've been watching football. So that'll
Yeah.
be a nice wrinkle in the fold. Denver at the New York Football Giants. This is the game where I didn't even know like necessarily which one of these teams would be favorited, so I didn't feel like I could put an upset in this game. But I can tell you who I think is going to win. I think Denver is going to win. I think it may be closer. I don't know. My perspective, I feel like Denver should be favored by a decent amount, like just thinking about it, but I really don't know. I feel like Denver should be favored by a decent amount, but in those sports markets like New York, I feel like teams tend to get hyped up a little bit more than they should. Um,
hmm
and I feel like Denver should be like a 6-point favorite, but I feel more realistically like maybe Denver wins by 3 in this game. Um, Denver's just got basically Denver and New York are so interesting because they're two teams where it's like, man, I look at the roster and the roster ain't half bad. The problem is that they don't have the quarterback position filled out. Since they don't have the quarterback position filled out, like in my head, I'm gonna go with the one that I think has the better quarterback, and I think that Denver, whether they play Drew Lock or Bridgewater, they're playing Bridgewater, who's the safer option. I think either of them are better than Daniel Jones, so I'm going with Denver in the game.
This game is my lock. I think this game has the biggest blowout potential outside of San Fran at Detroit. Uh,
Okay.
I think Denver's going to smoke the Giants. I really do. Um, Teddy Bridgewater playing that safe brand of football that he does is perfect for. And I was for Drew Lock being the starting QB week 1 for the Broncos. I think he will eventually get time out there, whether Teddy gets hurt or they just have seen enough and move on. But with like the Giants' defense as a whole unit, I don't think is that great. The talent is there. I don't know if Joe Judge is doing enough to coach up that unit to make it be where it can be. Same thing with the offense, but they also have Daniel Jones too, and he is a whole nother factor that is not enough for that team to win games. The Broncos have an elite defense. Daniel Jones can't do anything in practice against his own defense that isn't that great. The Broncos have some of the best, probably the best wide receiving core in the NFL. And they have a quarterback that's going to be safe and consistently get the ball to them without making many mistakes. That just smells like a blowout to me. So I made Denver my lock this week.
Man, it's just so hard to really put the thing on Daniel Jones, because it's like, oh man, I love Kenny Galladay. I love Kadarius Toney. I love that they have 2 tight ends they can put on the field. I love Saquon Barkley. I mean, I don't love the players on the defense, but I love what they got going on the defense. I feel like they've got a bunch of, like, at least solid guys around there, and I feel like they're well coached on the defensive side of the ball. And it's just Daniel Jones. It's like, how much is he going to hold him back? And I really think it's a lot. And I could see exactly what you're saying playing out, too. I really don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities. But, man, I'd have a really tough time picking the Giants in this one. I'd have a very tough time doing it.
If you give the Giants defense to Vic Fangio coach team, that defense is going to be in the upper echelon of the NFL because he's going to make the most out of that talent. I'm not saying it's going to be elite. I'm not saying it's going to be elite.
No. I feel like they're already, like, what they did last year on the defensive side of the ball. I feel like they're already there. Like, I don't feel like the coaching on the defensive side of the ball can get much better.
You don't. Yes, all right. So we're on the same page then. The talent's there. It's just wait, are you saying when the coaching can't get better? You're saying the coaching is good?
On the Giants' defensive side of the ball specifically is good. I think the defensive side of the ball for the Giants is coached very well. Offense,
you just think the talent there isn't, like, they need to get more talent than on the defense for it to get better then. Because the coaching staff is doing
the line. I think the secondary is very good. I think the linebackers could use more talent, and I think the defensive line could generally use more talent. The linebackers more so. The coaching is not the issue though, because I think because you're saying sending them to a different defensive coach or something would make them a better defense. I don't agree with that at all. I think that the defensive coach is actually getting, like, for what he has on the defense in terms of what I saw last year from the Giants. They had the biggest upgrade on the defensive side of the ball in terms of coaching of all teams last season. Because even though I say I like their secondary, the defense as a whole is not even close to talented enough to be, like, outside of what I would say is, like, the bottom quarter of the league. And I would say they were, like, a top 3rd defense in the NFL. Like, top 11, top 12 defense in the NFL last season. That's a huge jump from, like, where their talent is to where they actually were playing. And I think that their defensive coaching is something. If you remember, I picked their defensive coordinator. I think his name is Graham, for my potential assistant coach of the year spot, because I really do think he could have that much of an impact. The thing is that if they suck because the offense sucks, then it won't matter. And that's generally what I think will happen. But if there's a guy that I kind of think, like, is just that crazy in terms of, like, his ability to boost one side of the ball that much, I think it is the Giants' defensive coordinator. And, it's very weird because I still don't think this team's going to be good, but I think he helps his side of the ball out tremendously. And even me saying that, though, I would never want to hire him away as a head coach because I'm entirely in favor of hiring offensive guys as head coaches. So that's the other crappy part about it. If, like, I can't really actually get this concept probably in the best structure ever. So it's a really weird spot for them, but yeah, that's what I gotta say.
All right.
Yeah. So last game for the Sunday, I guess earlier windows, is Miami at New England. If you haven't taken note yet, I have not locked up a team yet. You know who I'm locking up. You know who I'm locking up.
You're taking Tua?
Nah, I am not taking Tua Tagovailoa. You know I'm not doing that. I'm locking up my favorite quarterback in this year's draft, Mac Jones, against the Miami Dolphins. He is NFL ready. I had no doubts about it before. Going to New England only makes it even more so true. And he's playing against a guy on the other side of the field where I'm not too confident in him as a quarterback. I feel like the teams around both these guys, neither of them have rosters around them that are insane, but I think they both have solid rosters. And because of that, I feel like it's a pretty even matchup. The Patriots have home field advantage to give them the swing first off. And the second swing point is that I like Mac Jones a lot more than Tua at this point in their careers. So with those two things being in their favor, I'm locking them up, even though I'm guessing this probably is a pretty close game in terms of like what the over-under is.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Same way I looked at this game, the same way you did. The talent, both rosters is equal. Games at New England, and Mac Jones and Tua's floors that they're at right now. Mac Jones has a higher one, so I'm gonna go with New England there. Maybe this is the game where Tua proves us wrong, and it shows that the hours and hours and hours that we put into bashing him during the offseason were all for nothing because we're just idiots and we don't know anything about football. And Mac Jones looks terrible, and you're an idiot because you have him as your highest ranked QB.
Maybe. Maybe it will. Maybe it'll happen. Okay. Now quickly, tell me, what is something that is going to make you look like an absolute idiot this weekend? Point it out to me right now.
Kirk Cousins looks elite.
Okay. When Carolina throttles the Jets, I'm going to look stupid. There we go. Good? You all set?
Yeah, I think we can cut this here.